What's up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. The Bills wrapped up their final practice in Orchard Park this week because the show is moving to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where there'll be a joint practice on Thursday. The Bills play the Steelers in their second preseason game on Saturday. He's Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. A ton to get into, Ryan. Of course, some practice observations, but I almost feel like that's going to take a back seat to all of the news, the Bills news, the happenings right now around this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your headline kind of encapsulates what Bills fans probably want to talk about first, but definitely a very busy day at One Bills Drive.
Yeah, so let's start there with Matt Milano because it was a very interesting development today watching him. The Bills are in pads today and he's participating. So you think everything is absolutely fine. And then at one point, I kind of look over to the side and he is on. Can you hear that, by the way?
A little bit.
You can't hear that? All right. Somebody's calling me. And when I get a phone call and the computer's open,
it goes through the computer. That's right.
Whatever. Anyway, so I'm looking across the field and there's Matt Milano getting looked at by trainers sitting on the bleach or on a couple of what are they called? The kind of the bench there, whatever that is, off to the side. And Josh Reed from Channel 4 said that it appeared from what he saw on the field to be an injury to his left arm at some point early in practice. He didn't participate in any of the 11-on-11 drills. Now, I got a lot of text messages about Matt Milano. He's one of the most important Bills players on either side of the ball, a fan favorite, of course. And I think the good news here, Ryan, is that had that been a super serious injury, I think he would have been taken off of the field.
Yeah.
Would have been taken in to get an x-ray, all those kinds of things. The fact that he kind of stayed out there and just watched for the rest of practice, I think that's a good sign, but we don't have a specific on what the injury is or how serious it is. It's going to kind of be a wait and see until we get to Thursday in Pittsburgh.
You hope it's precautionary because, like you said, he didn't go and leave the field. He kept his pads on. He just watched the rest of the practice. Our friend Matt Beauvais reported that he did a push-up at one point, kind of testing things. So, all I would say positive signs in terms of hopefully on the not so serious side. But like you said, we probably won't know more about this until Thursday, which, as soon as we know, our insiders will know. And as will everyone on our show that we'll have on Thursday after the joint practice.
Charles G says that he'll donate a ligament to Matt Milano if he needs it. And I think that this is a guy that missed most of last season with the broken leg or, whatever that ended up being. I don't know. I still don't think we have a clear explanation on what that injury was. But I think it's interesting. Sean was asked about Dorian Williams yesterday. And he said he's done a lot of good things, but he also said that there's a lot of things to work on. So it's not, for as much as Dorian Williams year 1 to year 2, I think you're excited about the upside and the possible step. It's not Matt Milano. And if he's going to miss an extended period of time at any point, and I'm unconnected to what happened today, I think that's a big concern because there's no Tyrell Dodson here anymore, Ryan. There is a bunch of players with not a lot of experience. You have some veterans. One of those we're going to talk about today, but another veteran in Nick Morrow, who the Bills signed away from the Eagles, who hasn't been around all summer long. He can't get healthy, can't get on the field. I think that the play of Balen Spector has been something that is a nice story, and it gives you a little bit of upside in that room, but a lot of question marks here if either Bernard or Milano were to miss any amount of time.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, you want to hope that Dorian Williams can take a year 1 to year 2 leap, a la Terrell Bernard, but that type of leap doesn't typically happen with every player. Dorian Williams, to his credit, has had an outstanding spring and summer, so perhaps he would be ready to assume a bigger role if need be. Balen Spector stayed healthy, has looked great, but Matt Milano is one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He's a top 10 linebacker in this league, and you just can't replace guys like that easily. So you hope that everything's okay there. You hope that this linebacker duo can stay healthy all year long so fans can see what it looks like with, Bernard, who came on into his own last season, and then Milano, who's been one of the best in the game.
Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday abbreviated version of Shot. We're going to be in and out in about 20, 25 minutes here. So we're going to kind of fly through a bunch of things. The Bills made a big shakeup to their roster this morning, Ryan. And Shane Buechele, who we knew was on his way kind of out of this picture for a while after suffering a neck injury that Sean McDermott seemed pretty concerned about the other day. They go out and they bring in Ben DiNucci. We talked a little bit about him on yesterday's show. The Bills made a couple of wide receiver moves today, too. They put Chase Claypool on IR. And let me spend a second on that, because this offseason, there was a rule change that, teams, to avoid the Reed Ferguson cut, if you will, from years past, when you cut a guy just to kind of leave him in the parking lot and then bring him back the next day. You can put two players who are hurt on injured reserve and pass them through that final roster cut down and not have to have them count against the 53. But to do it, you needed to place them there on the final day of right before the roster cut down. So Chase Claypool, who was put on injured reserve today, doesn't count for that move. So he's in a spot right now where we have 7 days. The Bills have 7 days to come to an injury settlement with him. If they reach that within the next 7 days, whatever that time frame is, add 3 weeks. That's when the Bills or any other team could sign Chase Claypool to come back again. But if he remains on IR and they don't come to an injury settlement, his season is over. They also waived injured Brian Thompson. If he clears waivers, he'll revert back to the practice squad or the roster or the injured reserve here with the Bills. And they bring in Deon Cain. I think it's Deon Cain. I don't think it's Dean Cain. And then wide receiver, we talked about this on the show yesterday, Damiere Byrd.
Yeah, no, Dean Cain was the former Superman that actually tried out for the Bills years ago. So it is Deon Cain. So you nailed that one. Damiere Byrd, veteran wide receiver, been around the league. Guys that you need people or players to get some reps in those last 2 preseason games. Good audition opportunity for them. Not going to make the main roster, but maybe they can have a Ty Johnson type of preseason where they can show, okay, well, we'll sign them to our practice squad, and then maybe they get elevated later in the year. Their bodies, you don't want to downplay, but their bodies for the last 2 preseason games, you need guys like that. As for Chase Claypool, I don't anticipate there being a heavy market for him. So if the Bills can reach an injury settlement with him, Matt, I would like to think that they could bring him back at some point on their practice squad, eventually elevate him up to the main roster if that's something they want to do. He had a really nice spring to his credit, great attitude, made some plays. But this toe injury that has lingered since I believe it was late July, it just unfortunately it never got good enough to get him back on the field. Something might have gotten worse, and now the time's ticking for the Bills and for Claypool.
Indeed. Typo in the headline. Somebody commented on it that Chase Claypool was cut. He wasn't cut. He was put on injured reserve. So that was a bit of a typo. That's on me. We're rushing, Ryan. We're trying to get this out. We're up against the clock, so apologize for that. Let's get into this practice though, because I bring up Claypool only because there was a wide receiver that popped a bit in practice today that I think it's worth talking about and like maybe resetting expectations for this player. And that was Andy Isabella. This was the best practice I've seen from him throughout all of training camp. And he kind of faded in the background. I know there's a lot of excitement around him. This is a former 2nd round pick, obviously plays mostly in the slot. I talked about it in the insider text line. He's behind Khalil Shakir, and that's really tough. They brought in other guys that, can play in the slot as well. Curtis Samuel being at the top of that list. And I feel like Isabella, no matter what he does upside wise, he's in a tough spot to make a run at a legitimate roster spot. But he looked great today. And it's like, man, his speed, his route running ability, if you could find a place for him, it would be so interesting. He made one play on the left side. I think it was like 30 yards down the field, getting some separation, beating the coverage. Josh Allen finds him and connects with him down the field. Huge kind of play. I think that was really a nice day for him. But again, I don't know the path to an actual role.
There probably isn't one. And you would think maybe if he could assume a kick returner, punt returner job, he's done some work there over the summer. but I just don't think you're going to designate a spot for Isabella on that 53-man roster when you have other guys. You have DeQuan Hardy, you have Ty Johnson, uh, Hamler's in the mix there still too. So that makes it so much more difficult for Isabella. But at this point, he's been in Buffalo's system. He was in the practice squad last year. Might end up being a great practice squad candidate again this year. I know that by the end of last year's preseason, there was a legitimate Isabella hive. This guy's got to make the roster, or else we're going to lose him. It was a good reminder that players that perform well over the summer, in training camp, in the preseason, one, they're not locks to make the roster. And two, sometimes fans covet players more than other teams in this league do, because the Bills were able to get Isabella back on their practice squad. There are other teams interested in him for the practice squad, but no one claimed him. No one signed him to their 53. So, I think Isabella can be back on that practice squad. If there's an injury and he's needed to be elevated, you could elevate him up, give him an opportunity. The speed is legitimate. The comfort in, Buffalo itself is probably pretty high for him now that he's been here. And now a new offense, but the more comfortable he gets with that too, the more likely you could see some opportunities for him maybe getting elevated from the practice squad, if that's what ends up happening.
Sheila, joining late, asks, was Milano's injury related to his leg? It was not. It was, we believe it's an arm injury. So we'll keep you posted if any news happens on that. Follow on social media, on the website, and definitely on our insider text line, which you can join today by texting 716-528-6727 or going to joinsubtext.com/shout Buffalo Bills. It's a 2-week free trial, Ryan. $3.99 a month after that. And the text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Beyer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litra, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give them a call, 716-852-1234, or check out litrolaw.com. All right, next up, we have to talk about AJ Epenesa, Ryan. This was, to me, the signature practice for AJ Epenesa. It was in pads. It was against Dion Dawkins, where his big highlight came from. But it didn't matter if it was against Dion Dawkins. Didn't matter if it was against Spencer Brown, running any kind of thing today. It's like you found 57 on the field, and it felt like he was doing something positive. The highlight reel play was just absolutely blowing past Dion Dawkins on an outside speed rush. And it's what we talked about AJ Epenesa since 2020 when the Bills drafted him. It is that get off. It is that speed off the line since he kind of remade his body a little bit. When he's able to deploy and shoot out of a cannon that way, he's really tough to deal with, especially even for a really good left tackle like Dion Dawkins. It was a would-be sack, a huge play for him. Man, if they can get him kind of to stay healthy, of course, but also getting some consistency day in and day out, that would be huge.
I was going to say, though, you hate to use the word frustrating, but you see those moments from him, those practices, those games where he bats a ball up, gets an interception, gets a sack, and he strings together 2 or 3 good games, and then he kind of disappears for a while. And it's easier said than done, but you wish there was more consistency, Matt, because he's been in the system a long time. The Bills brought him back. They felt like he was a guy worth retaining. His development was on the upswing. Last year, I thought he was having the best year of his career until he suffered that rib injury against the Chiefs. So maybe, this will be the year that he does truly take off in this system, become more of a consistent pass rusher, get more sacks than he's had. He's kind of capped out at 6.5 the last 2 years. So, maybe this is the year. But, yeah, consistency is the word that we need to see more of when it comes to AJ Epenesa.
If you're watching on YouTube right now, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We really appreciate that. Where do you want to go to next?
Let's talk about Christian Benford. Had a nice day today, correct?
Oh, man. It's like when the pads go on, just write it in pen. You don't even have to use the pencil on that day, because I feel like Christian Benford in pads is like a wide receiver's worst nightmare. And it didn't matter who he was matched up against today. 2 pass breakups. Intercepted Mitch Trubisky, who was back after missing yesterday for a personal matter. Really shutting things down, really making things really difficult. Let me find my phone here. Where is it? I want to pull up the one-on-ones. I think it started in the one-on-ones, and see here. I'm going to pull up all of them, and I'll just give you a little play-by-play. KJ Hamler, huge rep in one-on-ones. I thought had the play of that period working against Taron Johnson. When you beat Taron Johnson, I mean, it's a big deal. Keon Coleman had a great rep. I wrote that he put Kyer Elam a bit in a blender, which, that footwork from Keon Coleman against a guy like Kyer Elam with the speed and the quickness, impressive. Coleman also beat Lewis in that. I just wrote down Christian Benford is a technician. Lawrence Keys tried everything he could to but Benford locked him down. Just an unbelievable rep. Interception later in practice. 2 pass breakups in 11-on-11. Talk about just absolutely locked in right now for number 47.
So he's kind of like the Brett the Hitman Hart of this Buffalo Bills team, just a true technician on the field. And, we've seen it, Matt. This guy has a chip on his shoulder. Day 3 pick, comes from a small school, Villanova, wins a starting job, plays great, still probably doesn't get the national recognition that he deserves. And, you see how he is on the field. He treats every practice rep like it's live game. He doesn't want to give up an inch to these players. He will be in your face if he needs to. He runs stride for stride with guys. If he does get beat, he has the ability to cover that ground. Saw that a few times at training camp. This is a player that I think, Rasul Douglas, it could be his last year in Buffalo this year. If that is the case, I think Benford becomes the clear number 1 cornerback for this team. That's how good I think he is, and it all starts on the practice field. He treats those reps like they're so important, which they are. And it's not to say that some players don't treat him as important, but he goes in there with that mindset, like this is a regular season game, a playoff game. It's that's just the way that he is wound up and the way it works for him, and the Bills are going to benefit from that in a big time way this season.
Over 1,500 watching live right now. Thank you so much for making us a big part of your Tuesday here on Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. If you're just joining now and you're looking for the update on Matt Milano, we covered it earlier. Arm injury. We don't know the status. Good news is he didn't leave the field during 11-on-11. So you figure if something dramatic or scary happened, he's probably getting taken for an x-ray or something along those lines. So we'll track that. We'll have an update for you on Thursday. Tyler Bass, you want to go there next?
Let's go there.
Oh man, it was a rough day for him again today, Ryan. And I bring up my notes here, and he goes 4 for 6 for the second straight day. He missed a 42-yarder, a 47-yarder. He made a 32, 28, 45, and 52. How concerned are you about this? And are we sitting here right now, and if you're the Bills, are you having any second thoughts about maybe bringing back in Jack Browning to see if we can really get an idea of a true battle for the holder? I mean, if you're going day in and day out, and Browning's holding and he's going 6 for 6, and Martin's holding and he's going 4 for 6, I don't know. There might need to be a conversation had.
The concern, first of all, with Tyler Bass, yeah, there should be some legitimate concern. You're stuck with them, though, based on that contract. But to your point, they could change the holding situation if that's part of the problem, part of the issue. I don't know if Jack Browning would be the answer. The Bills were very fast to move away from him, Matt, faster than I thought they would be when you have a lot of players at other positions where, you saw some of these guys getting 3, 4, 5 reps in the preseason game. It felt like not much playing time. You could have cut there. So I think realistically, the Bills might have to roll the dice on a punter that maybe gets cut elsewhere at roster cut down time. If there's someone that has a long history of holding in this league, yes, you'd have to worry about how it would work with Tyler Bass since they wouldn't have any reps going into the season. But for whatever reason, there's got to be something to these struggles, the inconsistency. And maybe it is on Bass. Maybe the holds are all fine. There's no problems there with Sam Martin. But I'm sure that the Bills are monitoring this closely, and they need to come up with a game plan soon.
Roy Collins asked if the like button looks like thumbs up or thumbs down, because he doesn't understand why there's not more thumbs up. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel as well. If you're watching on YouTube, we really appreciate all of your support, all of the help there. I think the best path forward might be to just go the Sam Martin route a second time if you're unhappy with the holding situation. I mean, the Bills acquired him when they cut Matt Araiza late in the game and had to kind of go fishing for a punter after roster cutdowns, I believe that was. And I think he was a cap casualty. Maybe it might have been a little bit before roster cutdowns. I can't remember now. But either way, as you move along here and we get into the games, I know that Tyler Bass made a couple field goals in the game a few days ago, but I don't think any of those kicks are relieving some of the concerns that I feel like a lot of Bills fans have right now. Another comment I see in here is about James Cook. He did during the red zone period, had a really bad drop today. And it's one of those ones, I think it was a third down, and Josh Allen was looking for an outlet, and there was pressure in his face, and James Cook was right there, and an opportunity for running after the catch. I mean, this is going to get really tedious and really annoying for Bills coaches if this continues to be a storyline throughout the season with James Cook.
Yeah, James Cook's going to have a big role in this offense, running the ball, between the 20s. However, if these drops continue, you can quickly pull him, Matt, from the red zone opportunities. You can put a Ray Davis in there, give him that work, because Davis has really good hands as well. Davis is probably, definitely the more physical of the two between the tackles. He's someone that would be more of a threat when given the ball to possibly pop one for a first down, set up a 1st and goal, or score a touchdown. So, if James Cook keeps having these bad drops, the Bills aren't going to take him out of their overall game plan. He's too talented overall. But you can phase him out of the red zone a little bit and put a different back in there, like Davis, even like Ty Johnson, if need be.
We got a show coming up on August 31st. That is our next live show at Wingnuts, 1402 Millersport Highway. We cannot wait. We are going to bring the party to Millersport, right across the street from the Marriott. So if you're looking to come into town for the weekend, have a good time. We'll be talking all things Buffalo Bills final 53 and really start to, turn the page towards that opener against the Cardinals, Ryan. I can't wait for that episode.
I'm so excited to be back at Wingnuts for a live show. So excited to be talking about, at that point, the 53-man roster, the week 1 matchup. That will mean that real football is upon us. I'm still a junkie for these preseason games. I was sitting watching a lot of NFL Network this past weekend of meaningless football, but wouldn't trade it for any other sport at that point in time, because I love football, love watching the game.
All right, we're going to get out of here. I know it's short and sweet today, but that's only because in 2 days we're going to come to you live from Pittsburgh Acrisure Stadium. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Ryan and I will be live in person. We don't get a lot of those, so whenever it's time for one of those, it's going to be a fun one. I can't wait, buddy.
Yeah, I can't wait. Still Heinz Field to me, just like that's still Rich Stadium to some Bills fans. I'm always going to call it Heinz Field, but new name, new place. We'll be there Thursday. We'll be there Saturday, Bills fans.
Sounds good. All right, take care, everybody.